Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that this is going to be coming to a city near you when I covered the 15-minute cities or 15-minute towns that they were doing in the village, I think is of Oxfordville or something like that, over in the UK. Well, now Scotland plans to turn their entire country into a 20-minute nation. Scotland's plan to implement 20-minute neighborhoods nationwide. Let's see. New measures proposed by the Scottish government in a recent document outlined a war on carbon and a war on cars. It includes a plan to implement restrictive 20-minute neighborhoods so that the government can deliver on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what country you're in, did you elect the United Nations? Did you elect the United Nations to govern how your country lives their lives? How you live your life in whatever country it is that you're in. I'm going to try not to get excited during this video, okay? I know sometimes that fails, like yesterday's video. And if you didn't watch yesterday's video, ladies and gentlemen, it's one that you really don't want to miss. Environmentalists have had it in for cars for years, wrote Spiked Online last year. We all know that they like to ban cars altogether. In the age of net zero, the car is public enemy number one. And so we've had a long line of proposals to make driving more expensive and difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that when you hear me say that this has all been planned, and you're saying, are you crazy, AP? This hasn't all been planned. They're telling you right to your face. This has been planned, and it's being rolled out one phase at a time. Let me tell you real quick before I continue. And I know I always do this, but if I don't say it now, I'll forget. Right? What the world is going through right now with this Sustainable Development Goal bull butter that's going on via the United Nations and then passing it down through ESG is we're going through boot camp. When you go to boot camp or basic training, the job of the drill sergeant or the drill instructor, their job is to break you down to nothing so that they can then build you back up. And that is exactly what these people through these policies are doing to the world. They are breaking down every system. So yes, we are going to have big problems with energy going forward. We're going to have big problems in the food system. We are going to have big problems in the banking and finance system. Our economies are going to crash. And that is what they want. So that on the other side, they can hope. But if you're prepared, they will fail. They can hope that we are weak enough, that we as a people are weak enough, that we will take whatever they dole out. So stay prepared, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're not preparing and you love freedom, start to prepare right now. Slow and steady does win the race. This is not a sprint. For them, this is a marathon that they've been working on for a very long time. In November of 2022, the Scottish government published a revised draft of their National Planning Framework 4, which dramatically begins. The global climate emergency means that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the future impacts of climate change. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, whenever they mention that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, they mean that they need to reduce humanity. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because every single human needs to eat, every single human needs to breathe. We need to live, and we need things in order to live. And when they tell you that it is human beings that is causing this climate that we're going through, because we are going through erratic climate, but it has nothing to do with human beings, in my opinion. That's 100% my opinion. But when they tell you that, it's because the war is against you, humanity, or the war more so is against you, the plebes. The ones that can't stand at the same level than these people that are passing these policies. A few paragraphs later, it states, we have already taken significant steps towards decarbonizing energy and land use, but choices need to be made about how we can make sustainable use of our natural assets in a way which benefits communities. Don't be fooled by the fluffy language. The Scottish government's efforts are not an attempt to benefit communities. As the draft itself states, the Scottish government is planning future places on 6 principles that will play a key role in delivering on the United Nations SDG. Again, bowing down to an entity that was never elected by you, the Scottish people. And AP, you don't live in Scotland. What do you care? Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I've stated, this started in the UK. I'm pretty sure it was in the UK that it started with this 15-minute cities, and now it's going to start engulfing the earth. Now it's going to be pushed on all of these other countries that have governments that have sold out their people so that they can kiss the UN's ass. Excuse my French. Who do the SDGs benefit? To demonstrate who benefits, we'll use the example of SDG 7. SDG 7 has the goal to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. We are told that the whole point of sustainable development is to migrate the problems that will supposedly be caused by humanity's greenhouse gas emissions. This fairy tale has left most people laboring under the illusion that SDG 7 energy transition and the variations on the associated net zero policy commitment will reduce CO2 emissions. And it will not. It will not, because 99.96% of the CO2 in the atmosphere is naturally occurring. It is not induced by human beings, ladies and gentlemen. That's why it will not reduce it. The reality is that the UN sustainable goal for renewable energy is sheer fantasy, if not utter madness. And it's a scam to enable the rich to become richer off the backs of the poor, and that's exactly what it is. I don't understand how it is that people cannot see this right in front of their faces. That all of these policies that they're passing, that it is not making their lives any better. And the climate is still erratic, just like it was last year, the year before, and years past. One of the Scottish government's 6 principles to deliver on the UN's goal, remember, to deliver on the UN's goal, were they elected by you, my Scottish brothers and sisters, is national planning framework is local living. Local living. We will support local livability and improve community health and well-being by ensuring people can easily access services, green space, learning, work, and leisure locally. And then they go on to say, Scotland's climate change plan, backed by legislation, has set our approach to achieving net zero emissions by 2045. Impossible. It is impossible to achieve net zero. Ladies and gentlemen, just think about it. Every time that you exhale CO2. How are they going to achieve net zero? And we must make significant progress towards this by 2030, including by reducing car kilometers traveled by 20% and reducing the need to travel and promoting more sustainable transport. The draft then gives the precise method that government plans to use to reduce the need for travel. Several policies support more local living and limit the use of additional land for development. Remember what I talked about on yesterday's video, that by 2030 the government wants to take over at least 30% of the lands, oceans, waterways, etc. So here they go. One of these policies is Policy 15, which promotes local living, including, where feasible, 20-minute neighborhoods. It almost sounds as if 20-minute neighborhoods are an optical nice to have, but this is most likely more fluffy language, because Policy 15 was written with one and only one purpose. Policy 15 falls under the intent to encourage, promote, and facilitate development by applying the place principle. The place principle appears to be some sort of communist ideology, but to be honest, their gibberish is difficult to decipher, while at the same time sifting through all of the fluffy language. So returning to the proposed restrictions on the freedom to travel, the sole purpose of Policy 15 is develop proposals will contribute to local living, including where relevant 20-minute neighborhoods. To establish this, consideration will be given to existing settlement patterns, and then level and qualify of interconnectivity of the proposed development with the surrounding area, including local access to sustainable models of transport, including local public transport and safe, high-quality walking, wheeling, and cycling networks. And what I'm wondering is how are they going to build this infrastructure for all of these 20-minute neighborhoods? How are they going to build it without fossil fuels, i.e. energy, oil, natural gas, etc.? Employment, shopping, health and social care facilities, child care, schools, and lifelong learning opportunities. This all sounds great, ladies and gentlemen, but how are they going to build this if they're trying to achieve net zero? right? But they are going to have publicly accessible toilets. You can't have employment or visit family members who live further than 20 minutes away. Did you think about that? If they're going to be building these 20-minute neighborhoods, what if you have family members that live 40 minutes away? Are you going to be able to go visit them? As we have seen in Oxford, people do not take kindly to measures forcibly curtailing freedom of movement and freedoms in general. London boroughs are also preparing a defense against the attempted expansion of the ultra-low emission zone, ULEZ. So it was in London, in Oxfordshire, I guess, that they have the 15-minute cities. And here they say, for those that are not resisting the scheme because they trust their government, we suggest that you read the Scottish Government's National Planning Framework. You will note a lot of fluffy language mixed in with gibberish. And that's how they always do it. They put all of this language that the regular layman doesn't understand and doesn't really have the time to look up, so that they can get away with these laws and these policies that they pass on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen. That is by design, because psychology and money, not facts, are driven the climate alarmist narrative, and that's exactly true. And then here, ladies and gentlemen, they say, as well, psychological tactics are being deployed by the UK government based on a document produced by the Environment and Climate Committee. So they have to use psychological tactics in order to try to convince or use propaganda on the people, so that they will be like, okay, let's go ahead and save the planet, even though we're not the ones doing it. Published in October 2022, entitled, In Our Hands, Behavior Change for Climate and Environmental Goals. It is a sinister document. In it, the government openly states that all aspects of our life need to be managed to lessen the impact of climate change, and that mind control techniques, very similar to the ones used to force the public into locking down voluntarily. And I'll finish this one off with this. The simple truth is that CO2 is the Earth's green gas. It is the elixir of life. It has been supporting plants since the world began, making virtually all life on Earth possible. CO2 is nature's fertilizer. We should celebrate it, not demonize it. And we certainly should not be allowing the UN or governments to take control of it, monetize it, or use it to control us while removing our rights and freedoms. Scotland's entire National Planning Framework 4 should be scrapped. And ladies and gentlemen, if any of you that are watching this are from Scotland, send me an email and let me know how much validity this has. And it's all about control, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that SDG that we talked about in the previous article, the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN? Well, its little brother is ESG, right? Environmental Social Governance, which is the little brother of SDG. And here it says, a new EU directive requires mandatory ESG reporting. So now they're going to mandatory ESG reporting, where if companies want to do business, they have to report their ESG scores. And I'm going to tell you why that's going to be a bad thing, not just for the EU, but for a lot of other countries as well, to include the United States of America. Recently, the members of the European Council of the European Union, they unanimously approved the EU Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. In short, the CSRD will require more in-depth sustainability and environmental, social, and governance reporting by more companies than any prior EU directive. So this is where this is going to hurt. Let's say just here in the United States that I can talk to. So let's say, for example, that these companies in the EU, now they have to report their ESG scores, right? So the better their ESG score is, the more that they are in the favor of their overlords. So now let's say that a company here in the United States is doing business with the EU, right? With a company in the EU. Let's say Nutrient Survival, for example, because Nutrient Survival is a private company. However, let's say that Nutrient Survival wanted to sell food to people over there in the EU. How likely do you think that they're going to be able to if they don't even have an ESG score? It's almost like if you're trying to go get a loan and you don't have a credit score whatsoever. What's the likelihood of that bank doing business with you or giving you a loan if you have zero credit score whatsoever? It's kind of like the same thing. So there's a lot of companies in the United States right now that do business with companies in the EU. However, since these companies, or if these companies don't have an ESG rating, they're not going to want to do business with them because it's going to make their ESG score go down. And this is going to be worldwide, ladies and gentlemen. That's why people have to wake up now and understand that this is all under the umbrella of SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, which is headed by the United Nations. And the United Nations was not elected by any country that I know of. So wake up, ladies and gentlemen, because this is coming to a city near you. I believe that eventually it will fail. And I also believe that if we want to beat this, it's going to come down to the state level. It's got to come down to the state level, just like Governor DeSantis is getting rid of companies that are doing investments via ESG. He's telling them, get out of my state. I don't want to do business with you if this is the way you're going to take it. If you're going to be following a model that benefits someone else outside of the United States instead of the people here in the United States itself. So if it should come down to the local level, to the state level, where every governor says, we're not doing this ESG thing. But in my opinion, a lot of them have already sold out for years. A lot of them were on that 2020 directive, and then now they're on the 2030, goals and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them have already sold out their American brothers and sisters for an entity that has nothing to do with the United States of America as far as the people are concerned. Now, to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, I want to finish it off with a little bit of gloom and doom. Scientific consensus. Earth's climate is warming and it's getting really bad. I've shown you this chart before. Look at how bad we're warming. I mean, since 1880, we went from -2 all the way up to where we are now at 1 degree Celsius. It's getting really bad. But for those of you that have never heard me talk about this before, ask yourselves, why did they start at 1880 and don't show you a chart going back a few more hundred years? Ask yourselves why. If you go take a look at a chart that shows the temperature going back prior to 1880, and even let's say going back 1,000 or 2,000 years, that's exactly why they started at 1880, because this looks like there's a rise, when in fact we are a lot cooler than other times in history where there were no humans driving SUVs. But I wanted to go ahead and show you this right here. These right here are all of the organizations that they're saying that they back up this data that the world is warming, right? These are all of the organizations that say, yes, you are right, the world is warming and it's because of humans. I found something somewhat interesting, and what I found was this. If I go all the way down here, and these are all of the companies right here. If I go all the way down here, and it shows you, you can go to any one of these, right? And you can read their synopsis on what's going to happen to the world, why the world is warming, and pretty much every one of these say it's because of you. It's because of humans that the world is warming. But I found it odd that I did not find one, not even one, that had an opposite view. Every single one of these had the exact same view, that the world is warming because of humans, because of you. Not one of them said, well, we don't think that the world is warming because of humans. Maybe it's because of this or that. Isn't that odd that in science you have every single one that these guys, are referring to, every one of them have the exact same opinion. And this is in science. To me, I find that kind of weird. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to get worse. Continue to prepare. All right? Climate plans remain insufficient. Even after everything that they've done so far, their climate plans remain insufficient. I've shown you all a chart here not too long ago and shown you how much money the world has spent on green energy just in the last 6-7 years. I think it was like $9 or $10 trillion that has been spent on green energy in the last 6-7 years. Well, you would think that that would have done something to our consumption of energy, of fuels, of gas, of oil. But our consumption of oil has only gone up. So in the last 6 or 7 years that the world as a whole has spent I'm pretty sure it's in excess of $10 trillion now. They spent all of this money, $10 trillion, in the last half of a decade or so. And not 1 ounce of oil less are we consuming today. And it's actually estimated to go up. The consumption of oil is estimated to go up for the next several years. So as they're taking all of this money that is being taxed from your pay, all of this money that is being taken from you to spend on all of this green energy, but not 1 ounce of oil less has been consumed, but even more. The trend is higher, and in the next several years, we're going to be using even more and more and more oil than what we are now, while they are taxing all of these countries, while they are taxing you. They're just stealing your wealth. And that's what this is. A great, or the greatest, transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. That is what is occurring right now with this green movement. And that is my opinion. However, I did show you the chart a few videos back where it shows that the consumption of oil is only going up, and it has only been going up for the past 6 years, whereas $10 trillion or more have been taken from you to put towards this green energy crap. While all of these people at Davos right now flew in on 1,000 jetliners, 1,000 private planes, to tell you that you can't drive your car 20 minutes. Having said that, have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for all of your support. We will see you this Friday, okay? Make sure that you're on Friday's live stream. I have a little surprise for you on Friday, so hopefully we'll see you on Friday. God bless every one of you. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.